Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Or should I be welcoming myself back since it's been 7 weeks since my last video? And I apologize for that. That was terrible on my part. But to make up for it, I'm going to tell you what's been going on. Because there's been some crazy shit going down. And in order for you to understand some of it, I'm going to have to go back in time and tell you some stories to lead up to the more modern stories so you can understand what's going on with them and where I'm at in those situations as we progress to where we are now and where things are going. Because, yes, I'm talking about where things are going again on my channel. Because life just keeps happening and you just can't control what happens. You can only control how you react. So, because there are quite a number of stories I'm going to be trying to blaze through, and because this is a bit of a special occasion, given that we're not talking Bible stories, we're talking my own crazy, weird-ass stories, I got the bong out. And I got a bit of resin buried in the bottom and some more and plenty of weed to keep going. So let's get this party started. Oh, that's some good weed. So, we got to go all the way back to 2016. I was a trucker at the time, driving big semi-trucks, 52-foot trailers, and I was not a Christian anymore at the time. I had deconverted. That is a whole completely different story. I was homeschooled for 12 years and very sheltered. All that there's a whole other series you can listen to that if you want to hear about that. But I used to be a very serious Christian, but I had deconverted. So in 2016, I'm living on my own, trucking, and I'm just kind of starting to redevelop an interest in spiritual things. See, as a Christian, one of the number one things that fascinated me the most was angels and demons and the whole spiritual side of things that humans couldn't or can't see with their physical eyes. And because, in the Bible and in fan fiction by different Christian authors like Frank Peretti, my parents were kind of a fan of his. He and other people wrote stories, involving Christians and had fictitious involvement with angels and demons being involved, and they'd talk about the angels and demons fighting in the background and stuff, and them tumbling through buildings and apartments, fighting over this one soul to try and keep it from turning down the path of sin and evil and all that. But it was, it'd be very descriptive, very action-packed, and it was really fun. I still have those books. I'll probably read them again just because of how entertaining I found them as a child. But as an adult, that still came back to me because, of course, as I grew up, I heard about, ghost stories and, horror stories and things, like poltergeists, things of that nature, non-Christian versions of the spirit realm occurring. And, I never saw any evidence of this, but I always wanted to. Even if it was like being in person for watching a demon being exorcist from a person. I would still be interested in seeing something like that. Um, if that is something that is real. And I'm much more open now than I was back in 2016. But in 2016, I was starting to open up again because I was kind of an agnostic. I didn't believe in God or the supernatural, but I realized there's enough stories out there to where there's probably something to the supernatural. So I decided that I didn't know what I wanted to live for at the time, and I decided that one of the things I wanted to know before I died, if possible, was if there really was a supernatural side of reality. And that if there was, I wanted to learn as much about that real supernatural side of reality that existed. So I could, maybe not necessarily, maybe not prepare for it, but at least know what was coming or have an idea, or it'd just be nice to know what's real, because there's so many people that say what is and what isn't, and a lot of liars out there, and even Christianity in some forms has some truth about the aspects of the supernatural realm, uh, as I've come to discover. Uh, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. There's so much to it, but anyways, yeah. Let's get back to fucking 2016. All right, so maybe it was more like 2017, but it was right around that time that I started listening to horror stories and things like that. And I had a trucking partner who told me about Buddhism and some other aspects of spirituality. He thought that my own beliefs kind of sounded like that I was kind of building on my own. So I was listening to things about that and about Taoism, uh, along with horror stories and things about poltergeists, and trying to hear things about the real side of the supernatural. And I was also dating, or interested in dating at the time. I had a dating profile, and I met a witch. Uh, yes, a witch. Um, Not someone who literally rides on a broomstick. Um, they're a little bit more popular now than they used to be back in the day, but she was like a modern low level. She wasn't in a cult. She didn't practice Wicca or anything like that. She was like now the word is escaping me at the moment. Not esoterical. Just her own variation. I just spent 5 minutes trying to find the damn word online, and I could not for the life of me find it. But basically, she did her own thing. It was based off of her own personal experiences and stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into what her own experiences were and all that, because I can't remember them all. And that was years ago. Point being, I decided to date her. I was open to it, and we were clicking for the time being, and I dated her for a couple years. Unfortunately, the relationship did not last. It just wasn't meant to be. But while I was with her, she she was not a hardcore practicing witch. Like, she wasn't doing massive magical stuff. She was like a lighter level, you could say. It was like her own. It's not something she treated like a religion she went and did like every Sunday, like people do with church or something. It's just something she did as like part of her thing, just part of her. It's hard to explain what to. to describe as being natural when you've been raised to go to church like a freaking Nazi. But that was not saying that's what my parents were, but that's how hardcore and conservative and strict they were about taking their spiritual beliefs. So it was a whole completely different way of me being introduced in how to even look at the supernatural to begin with. So it was very cool for her. It was personal. It wasn't something that she had to follow very specific rules. It was just her thing, and it wasn't something that she was going around the world telling other people to convert to and believe in, like my parents believed in, and like many very devout religious people do. Um, Hers wasn't like that. It was like live and let live. Like, you do your thing, I do my thing. We just get along and that's it. Be cool. Be kind to each other. And don't take shit either. Like, this is also, believing in standing up for yourself and things of that nature, which is where like spells and things like that came into play. And she did introduce me to some of that. That's not what convinced me. It was some other things that happened, and like I started seeing a huge common thing amongst people who are gradually becoming more spiritually attuned is to start seeing number synchronicity. People say it's like seeing the same kind of car after you just bought a car, but it's not the same as seeing a car that you just bought on the street. It's not at all the same because it keeps happening. When you buy your own car, or when you buy a car and you start seeing other ones, yeah, it is easy to see them, but you only see those, you only see that car that's yours. You don't see certain ones just pop out at you randomly that you're not looking for, and that's how the numbers were, and that's how the numbers are for those who have that particular, I guess you could say, gift, but it's the way the universe chooses to speak to people. One of the ways, because there's many ways, but that was something that I started to have happen to me. I started seeing repeating numbers like 111. That was one of the first ones I saw. Triple one or quadruple one. I would look at the clock, um, or it would be random amount of, or it was seemingly random amount of dollars and cents that I would get from a purchase, and it would be multiple times in one day. That was the thing that it ended up building up to. It started out very slow and progressive, one time here and there, right? Turn my head and see it and just without looking for it. And this wasn't something that my girlfriend tried to make me do. She had her own number that she saw, and she only saw one number. Me, I started seeing the one number, and then I started seeing more, and then more, and then I thought I was starting to go crazy. But then when I started looking up the meanings behind these numbers and trying to piece them together with when I would see them and what I was thinking, it would start to make sense of what. And there's so much to get into, and I'm trying to cram a lot into this one video, so I can't really get into the details and like have a full on debate and convincing discussion about why I believe this is all real. This is all personal experiences that I've from, and I still see numbers every day on a regular basis. But that's where it began with her, and we broke up, and I continued seeing numbers, and I continued exploring and learning on my own. And as I continued to educate myself, I taught myself, so to speak, and not by blind guessing, but by going online and researching and comparing what different people said, and then deciding to go off of what I thought sounded the most safe and wisest route to approach the idea, and started getting into reading Ouija boards. And Ouija boards. I only have one. Only always ever had one, but and I know I'll probably have to make a separate video about that because there's a lot to get into about that. There's a lot to get into about everything that I've learned and have gotten into, but I've also gotten into I've learned how to read tarot cards successfully. And I've had a lot of practice at both that and at the Ouija boards. I've learned how to read runes. I have an oracle deck, which is essentially the same as a tarot deck, but it can. I won't get into the details. It's relatively the same idea, just a different format of style that comes out of it, and it's all just come to me as uniquely and weirdly and just together as kind of like my own outfit right here. Just over time, just like it's like, all right, the first first it was the Ouija board because of my own personal experience, and I wanted to know what was, that seemed like the most logical thing to start with, but then over time, I felt the strong pull to get an oracle deck, which was from an Egyptian theme. I was playing Assassin's Creed Origins at the time, one of the Egyptian themed Assassin's Creed game, and I was just really, really getting into it, and happened to be at a esoterical event, a gathering of witches and other such people, having a convention and selling and things like that. And I saw this Oracle of Anubis deck, and it was the coolest thing I saw there. And I was like, I don't know how to read cards. I don't know why I am so fascinated by this, but like I want it. I want to get it, and I want to check it out, and I did, and then I ended up getting a gift of runes from one of my relatives, and then I wanted to give the tarot deck that I have to my girlfriend for her birthday, but we broke up right before then, and I wasn't able to get it to her. And then come to find out, I wasn't able to get on speaking terms with her again, just because of how things went, and she passed away, unfortunately, and I was never able to get that tarot deck to her, but they never led me wrong, and neither of the runes that I've learned to read, and I've done it for other people. I've done readings for other people and stuff now. Not for money, not yet, but we'll get to that. You gotta keep in mind, this all began in 2016, and it's 2022 now, so this has been six years. Yeah, it's been 6 years since I started getting into. Well, it's gonna be No, yeah, six, about six since I seriously started. And I've taken it real slow and very skeptically because I took Christianity super seriously. I was taught that it was like 100% truth. Everything that my parents taught me was was supposed to be the truth. And because I was homeschooled for all 12 years of my public education and I was completely sheltered during that entire time, I didn't have exposure to other ways of thinking. And so I just gobbled up what my parents taught me. And once I realized that it wasn't completely true and that not enough of it was true for the entire religion to make sense, it just all fell apart for me. And so I really came to distrust like everything since that came out. You know, like I wasn't gonna buy the first Poltergeist video I found just because it had, 4 million views or whatever. I'm not gonna be an idiot because people out there can fake that shit, right? So you gotta be careful. You can't believe just whatever you see and whatever you hear. You have to literally test these things out for yourself. You have to get real people's experiences who aren't faking this stuff, who have had these experiences themselves, and you need to get your own experiences for you to know if it's really real or not. It's just like knowing if mac and cheese tastes good or not. You got to taste it yourself to find out if you like it or not. You cannot just go off of what other people tell you. You got to try it yourself. Otherwise, you'll never know if it's actually really good or if it's terrible, like the minority of people say it is. Maybe the minority is right and the rest of us are just stupid, but you'll have to try mac and cheese out for yourself to find out. And so that's how you kind of have to approach taking the whole idea of the supernatural seriously if you want to find out if it's real. And you don't want to be stupid about it. You got to be skeptical about it. And that's my whole point of saying that it's been 6 years that for me since I've gotten to this point where I'm at, to where where I'm able to even talk about this stuff. Because believe me, a lot of the time I thought I was going crazy because I didn't want to believe it was real. It seemed too weird, too different, too out there. But at the same time, a lot of it made sense and kept pulling me back in and making me want to keep trying it out and testing it precautiously and skeptically. And I did. And so, where does that lead up to for the last 7 weeks that I haven't been filming? What has that got to do with any of that shit? Well, we can fast forward from the beginning of where it all started in 2016 all the way up to July 4th, 2022. But first, I need to refill my bowl. So I had enough experience with my cards and runes and all to where I could trust what they're saying. I have guides that I speak to. I go back and forth between calling them gods and guides because it's a weird, but it's like a friend / alliance relationship that I have with them. They've always been there. They've always been helping me out, even when I didn't realize it. But we communicate. They help me out. They give me guidance on what to do. They speak through the cards, the oracle decks, the Ouija / spirit board, or they can. I've practiced meditation a lot. That's one of the other things I've learned, and they can speak to me directly through that while I'm meditating to me. So July 4th comes is on the approach, and I get directed by my guides to go to this place that I went a few years back, and to it was had a it was a weird experience to getting in, and there's a whole separate story. But I had kind of a spiritual awakening there. I didn't realize it. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was going nuts, or was about to die on shrooms. But strange what weed and shrooms and even acid can do to help wake you up in ways that you never have been in your current life. Um, but anyways, I had a spiritual awakening there, and it'd been a while since I'd been back, and my guides directed me to return there, and I was feeling prompted to share my abilities to. I'm not. I didn't even say what the place was. It's a campground. It's a place called Rainbow Farms. You can look it up. Pretty popular place. Celebrities have been there and performed there. It's a, did I say it was a campground? It's a campground. And yes, as you can guess by the name, it's LGBTQ friendly. Um, that's not what they're all about, but they are. But the original owners, or some of the original owners, used to be, well, they were a um, a gay slash bisexual couple, and all that, and they've been pro weed, always pro weed, very hippie, pro peace and all that. And they've had uh, bad issues with the government for a while in the past. They're doing much better now. They've always tried to do the right thing. They've never been into the gangs and all that crap and illegal narcotics and shit. So weed, because weed's actually freaking good for you. Turns out, and if you research it, you will find out it's good for helps cut down on your muscle inflammation. So it helps with muscle recovery from working out or when you pull something and such. Yeah. Look that shit up. Good for a lot of other things too. But so yeah, they sell weed there and other things. But it's a great, peaceful, very strives to be legal place. And so I was prompted to go back there a second time. And to take my cards and runes and all that with me. And not to offer my services for money, but to offer it for weed and just for whoever wanted readings. And who had I been practicing my readings on previously? Well, myself and also a few family members and friends that I know. And I didn't charge them money for it or anything. And some of them do it themselves, and we would do it for each other when we didn't want to trust our own readings and our own, because sometimes you can be self-conscious and you don't want to. Sometimes, like if you become too anxious about manipulating the answers yourself and not getting a clear message from your guides, it's a good idea to actually go to someone else instead of doing a reading for yourself. And if you know someone who has a legitimate spiritual connection and can do that, then that's what you want to do. There are people who fake that stuff all the time, and I know I'm already getting accused of being a faker myself in the comments, probably, and will for ever to come, probably, by someone. There's always going to be some haters, but oh well. So, back to the story. I'm guided to this place. I was very nervous because honestly, this was something that I had never done before. I was being prompted, encouraged to go out and share my tarot reading and rune reading abilities with complete strangers. And I was very nervous. I was afraid of the readings being wrong and stuff like that. But um, I'd had a, I mean, I had 6 years of experience up to this point with my guides, with and building up with cards and runes and all that. And they had been very consistent that I was able to overcome my fear and trust my guides and go through with this thing anyways. And mind you, it was a risk for me because it costs money to go to places like this, and I'm not a rich guy. Yes, I have a pretty nice apartment, and compared to a lot of people in the world, I am rich. Okay, but I'm compared to a lot of people, I'm also quite poor. Um, so this was a financial risk for me to do this, and much less to not even ask money for this. But I was too nervous to want to ask for money anyways. Um, but I went, and I wasn't going to do it for money, and and that was perfectly fine with my guides. And I went, and so I got there. Nothing happened the first day, and I was a little discouraged, but at the same time, I was scared. I hadn't talked to anyone, and it was only the first day. And I'm an introvert. It takes me a while to get out of my shell. But this was all part of my guides helping me get out of my shell. I've been doing a lot of like self improvement and stuff like that. And this was all part of that. The second day, I decided to ask my cards what my first customer would be like. And so I did. And my cards told me. It listed out multiple things about who my first customer would be. It said that they would be generous, that they wouldn't necessarily be financially wealthy, but that they would be doing pretty well, all things considered, be a very generous person. It was going to be a woman, um, that they would have children, and was there anything else? That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Um, there might have been one or two other things, but anyways, so and I ended up getting my first customer, and she actually called me over, and turned out it was a vendor, one of the vendors that was working there at the campground. And turns out she had children, and she asked me to do a reading for her, which I did. And it turned out to be accurate and fitting for her approval, and she was so happy and ecstatic with the reading. She was extremely generous. Like I got so much free food, uh, just from her. I saved a lot of money and food that I had brought with me, that I was prepared to spend and consume. And not only that, but she offered me a place at her vending booth. She wasn't a tarot reader herself. She was a smoke vendor, and she had, well, a bunch of other um, random assortments. But she would go. She was one of those people that goes to fairs and such with her own vending shop, and um, and it was her first time there vending, and she was in a real kind of like in a pickle of a situation, um, and my reading was able to uh, give her advice and direction uh, in the direction she needed to go, and she was so happy. She invited me to be part of her booth, and said that I wouldn't even have to pay for um, commission or for uh, part of the vending expenses myself. Uh, she was willing. She was happy for me to help out if I could, but that she wasn't going to make me. She just wanted the extra attraction to help with her own business, and she was willing to let me make 100% of my own profit if I was willing to work alongside her, and I wouldn't have to pay for my own vending spot, and I'd be covered under her, and I would just have to show up and work next to her and her vending spot. Yeah, that happened. That straight up happened. I got offered a business deal, and I had never. I mean, it had crossed my mind, but I didn't. I was, like I said, I was anxious and worried about giving readings to complete strangers. But this lady straight up offered one, or offered or asked for one, and then offered me a job doing it next to her for 100% free commission. Well, zero commission for her. Me keeping 100% of the profits of my customers and not having to pay for my own vending booth. Like what? Like that, and that was one of the craziest things that ever happened to me. That was 4th of July weekend. And yeah, I agreed. I agree. I agreed. And uh, the next event, well, I'll yeah, because you guys wouldn't fucking believe me if I didn't have evidence to show you, right? So, name of the company, I got a free T-shirt. The Main Drag Smoke Shop, and yeah, as the back, as the front, yeah, is nice. And then the very next event where I'm gonna be vending for the first time, and it'll be her second time, but it's gonna be at this Spectrum Cup. I'm not like, I mean, I'm sheltered as fucking weird and all that crap, so I don't understand what a lot of this means. But it's going to be featuring New Breed and Jesse Howard live in concert. I've it's going to be wild. This is in August. It's going to be August weekend of August 13th for the whole weekend. OutlawNationOfficial.com. Look it up. A Music and Plants Festival. All about that weed, baby. Oh, yes. And I will be there. I am going to be at this place vending. So if you're in Michigan, well, just look it up. Look up the tickets and all that shit. I won't have to pay to go because I got invited to fucking vend. Holy shit. So this is awesome. I'm very excited. And my cards have actually been encouraging me to since then look into vending full time and offering my services to help people. So I'm and I'll yes, I will probably be talking about some of that stuff esoterical type of stuff on here coming up. Not gonna say when, but I'm not done with the stories yet. I'll talk about the future of the channel when I get to that part. Couple more quick stories of what happened since then, because that was not the last crazy story to happen. Now, one thing I mentioned previously that I wanted to do with my comedy was to switch my hours around at work so that I could have more time on the weekends to work on my comedy writing, as well as be more consistent with these freaking videos, and as well as be able to actually go to comedy clubs. And of course, that was gonna save me a little gas, and because I could put one night of gas from work towards comedy instead. The way I was going to move my hours around, I was going to work 10-hour days, 4 days a week, instead of 5 8-hour days. And to save even more on gas, I was going to get a motorcycle license. And that was the next thing I did, or attempted to do, I should say. I looked into the stuff about it, and found a class that said they could. It was a college course class that said they could train someone who had never ridden a motorcycle before in a weekend to be able to get their license and be a proficient motorcycle driver. And only for $50. And I thought, wow, that's great. So I signed up for it and was on a 2-month waiting list, which dumped me out to about a week or two after 4th of July. No, the very next week, because it was the 8th. Weekend of the 8th. And so I went in, and boy, that has turned out to be what is going to be a future comedy bit, because of how ridiculous things were. You know, when you learn to drive a car, you spend a crap ton of time behind the wheel before you ever go and take the real test. There was not nearly sufficient amount of time at this motorcycle class to be able to do that. I'd never been on a motorcycle before. I know how to ride a bike, and I technically know how to ride a motorcycle now, but they only allowed everyone to do each exercise 4 times. And there was no letting you free to get used to handling the bike and, roam and driving on your own around the lot. There wasn't that. There wasn't any going on the highway either, of course. Obviously, that would be very disastrous. But there just wasn't any time allowed to get used to handling the bike. It was, you get on the bike and you perform this exercise, whether you're used to using the bike or not. They would tell you what to do with your limbs and your head and your eyes and all that. But if you're not used to it, then you're going to have to train your body to get used to those particular motions. And honestly, there's nothing except for maybe playing a piano that comes close to actually riding a motorcycle. Because you know why riding a bike isn't quite the same, and is why a piano is more comparable? Because On a piano, you are using your hands to the max, which is the same on a motorcycle. And yeah, same on a bike. But the big difference is that on a piano, you also have foot pedals, of which, if you are skilled enough, you will use both your feet. So, and not necessarily at the same time, but sometimes you will. And on a bike, that's not guaranteed that you're going to use your feet at all, aside from pedaling forward. And that's really it. You will have the occasional bike that allows you to brake by reversing the pedals, and then you don't have to have any brakes up here for your hands. And then that's completely different from a motorcycle, even more so, which makes piano even more like a motorcycle. So basically, long story short, I got kicked off from the motorcycle course halfway through the last day. I was catching on by the last exercise, but there were only 4 exercises, or four times per exercise, per different exercise. If there were 8 exercises, if there were 8 practice rounds per exercise, I probably would have passed and been fine. But they wanted to rush it, and the way they had it scheduled and everything, they really crunched the time on it, and I couldn't keep up with them. Between my ADHD and my dyslexia and the way, and they weren't even that terrible, but the way things they had set up, it was just, oh my god. Stay tuned for the comedy bit, because it'll be in one of my early pieces. I'm gonna trash the crap out of, I will lovingly trash the crap out of them, because they were young and inexperienced teachers that we had. And so I understand that feeling from their position. But they fucked up. So I will have to find a different way to practice driving a motorcycle. Which I have a plan for, and I am working towards that, but one thing at a time. And I had to spend all my money on car expenses recently, so that's little bit on the back burner right now, but still very much a goal, and I know what I'm aiming for that. But that was the next thing that happened, and that whole class thing took the entire weekend, and was one of the reasons why I didn't end up filming. The week after 4th of July, I probably should have given you guys a warning. I apologize. But then I had I don't know why I missed several of those weeks. I don't know why I missed 7 weeks altogether. I just feel terrible about that. But the next thing was pretty intense. I kept thinking I'd never experienced anything like this before in my life, and that I would have another experience just as unique and different afterwards. And that's where we come to this last one. At my job, where I currently work, I've been there for 3 years and a month, not counting when I worked as a temp for roughly 6 months before that. And I started as a press operator. I won't get into what that means, but it's heavy lifting but relatively easy job. And after 2 years of it, or almost 2 years, they liked my performance enough to where they offered me a position in metal finishing, um, which was more of a detailing job, less heavy lifting, but more more paying attention to detail and uh, fixing parts according to the damage the individual part received. So it's not something you can rush or time, and that's, but something that still has to be done as relatively quick as possible, but still not something you can rush because it is a detailing job. Because you're looking for all the mistakes to fix as possible, all the flaws, all the dents. And I did this for just over a year and a half, and just um, over the course of the last month, um, this story I'm about to tell you developed. Um, we got our yearly raises, and the raise I got and my fellow coworker, who was about the same experience as I was, although he was originally hired in to do metal finishing, so he came in with experience, and I was trained on the job. He should have been getting paid more than me, in my opinion, when he came in, but we got paid the exact same. Um, but when the time for the raises came around about a month ago for us, because we got hired in about, or we got put into that about this into that metal finishing job about the same time. The raise we got after a year of doing that job was only 15 cents, which is what the press operators got after 3 years. So we got a raise according to press operators instead of a raise according to metal finishers. I went to the board. There's a board that's posted the raises for all the different jobs and according to the years of experience. And according to the paper that was on the board, it said I should have gotten 50, or we should have gotten 50 cents of a raise. So quite a bump bigger. So I went to HR, the people who would know what was going on, and they told me that the manager who was responsible for switching our paperwork over from saying press operator to metal finisher hadn't done that specific step, and that he needed to make an official paper and such to inform HR of us being switched over so we could get paid. So I contacted my manager and asked him to do this. And instead of being like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, he started putting up an argument as to, and questioning why I thought I should get my full raise. And so I, as calmly as I could, explained to him. I wasn't mad, as it was just a bit frustrating. Because when you work hard and your managers don't notice, it's annoying. And then they ask, why do you think you deserve a raise? And so I told him, like, look, I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm sweeping before, before anyone else grabs a broom when there's nothing left to do, when there's nothing to do. I try to be one of the first people back from my break. I'm always one of the last people to go to my break. At least I try to be. And, all this X, Y, and Z. And I told him, like, look, you can talk to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so who are all over here more often than you are. And they will tell you what my work performance is like. And he didn't even want to do that. So I talked to a different manager, and that manager said, go to Dan. Dan is the man. Above. So I went over my first manager's head to Dan. And long story short, well, according to him, once they finish the transition process of fixing everything, I will be getting my full raise, as will my fellow coworker. But this has taken a ridiculously long amount of time to do, and it's been quite an issue. And my manager, whose head I went over, was quite infuriated. And then just come to find out, when I was leaving work Friday, that a week from the day I went over his head, that manager is now no longer working at my workplace. I don't know if he got fired for not doing his job, or if he chose to leave for a different job. But that's been the weird roller coaster my life has been for the last 7 weeks. So, what does this mean for the future of this channel? Well, I'm not entirely sure. But there's definitely going to be quite a disruption of consistency. I wanted to be consistent with this, and I was able to for a while. I think I'm going to be getting some more help soon that's going to be able to help me do this channel and keep up with it more, maybe even make it better quality. That would be nice. But I also might be coming across a lot more free time on my hands, because my guides and cards have been encouraging me to do tarot reading full time. And that would really free up a lot of my time if I could do that. So I would have way more time for videos and for writing and for picking up music again, which I'm coming to miss more and more. But as far as what's going to be coming out on this channel, that is also going to take a bit of a turn. I still want to finish the Torah of the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Bible, because my dad taught me to always finish what you start. So I started commentating on the first 5 books of the Bible, and by golly, I ought to finish it for nothing else than at least for my old man who's about to pass away. But I was trying to figure out what to do after that. had some ideas floating around. I was doing that Patch the Pirate thing, which I may or may not continue. I couldn't find the monetization thing to turn off, if it's even on. So I might not even fuck with Patch the Pirate anymore. I don't know. And so, what will I talk about on this channel? Well, for one thing, while I was taking that motorcycle class, I was thinking I could literally teach this thing better myself if I had the time and preparation. So that is one possibility that I was thinking about. After I get my license, specifically for Michigan riders, because it'll be for the Michigan rules and all that, I'm considering doing a motorcycle instruction video. Because while the book writing class and all that was great, there's a lot more, and like there's the teachers that I had for the actual motorcycle riding, they were good, but they could have been better. They could have explained things just a little more thoroughly or a little more simply. That took me, well, because I'm special, came up with a new term for that, also going to be in my comedy. I call something I refer to myself as culturally retarded, because of how sheltered I was and all that. Anyways, so that's one possibility, motorcycle lessons on YouTube. I know other people do it, and I am going to use other people's stuff to teach myself more, and we'll be referencing other people for you to go to if I end up doing motorcycle lessons on this channel. But one other thing that I definitely will be doing in the future is I will be talking more about the esoterical and my beliefs and how I conduct tarot and seance readings and stuff like that. And because there are right ways and there are wrong ways. There's more than one right way, and there's always many, 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 many more wrong ways. And for other people out there who are curious about the supernatural, even if you don't want to do anything in it yourself and just want to hear other people's experiences, I'm the guy to come listen to stories from. You don't have to believe me. I'm not expecting you to. Because like I said, you have to taste the mac and cheese to see if it tastes good or not. Gotta do it yourself. But for those who are brave enough and who are wise enough to listen to those who have gone before, I will be offering advice and how to stay safe and not do stupid things. What to avoid, what to watch out for, what to not do, what attitudes to avoid, because there is an attitude of humility that you have to approach with this. Otherwise, you will get fucked up. So, yeah. Esoterical shit. Supernatural. Tarot readings. And oracle decks. And runes. And Ouija boards. All that jazz. Coming to this channel. So stay tuned, my friends. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button and... Oh, the next video is going to be for that $810. I finally figured out where to donate it to. The place that I have chosen. I haven't seen enough notifications for comments and stuff on the, of course, I have very few subscribers and such, so I'm not really surprised about that. But I've been trying to pay attention to this stuff, and maybe YouTube hasn't been notifying me. It has been a dick to creators. I've been noticing that shit. So I may not even be staying on YouTube permanently. I would like to, because I like YouTube. It means a lot to me, sentimentally speaking, but it's been a dick a lot lately. So I may have to use other platforms soon. But the next video will be about the $810 that I built up for my detective / clue / guessing game that I did a ways back. And the lady and the place that I will be donating the money to was a big part recently in helping me in my personal development, and as well as my spiritual development and maturity and all that. And she does tarot reading herself, and well, no, she doesn't do tarot reading, but other people that she works with do. She did Reiki healing for me specifically, and it was very, very healing and helpful. And she does it for other people. She does it as a full-time business, but also as a charity. She doesn't charge a strict price. It's based on what the individual person can afford, and if they can't afford it enough and they are in very desperate need of healing, then she's happy to do it for free. And she was even willing to do some of my sessions for free, and I was like, no, please let me. Because it was... I didn't know that it would actually help, but I was willing to give it a shot, and I felt my guides prompting me, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so much happier and so much more open of a person than I ever was before. And I thought I was, and I was doing good on my own before I went to that place. You can actually look it up yourself. It's called Calavera Rose. It's on Facebook. I live like 15 minutes from it. But I'm going to be going to them and donating that $810 to them in my next video. So I hate the idea of public stunts, but this is official, and it needs, I'm a man of my word, and if you don't see evidence of it, then how will you know that I actually gave it away? Like I said I would, and didn't keep it, because, damn it, I could use that money right now. But I'm not worried, because everything has worked out so perfectly up to this point. I could have never imagined that someone would come up to me and ask me for a reading, and then be so happy with the reading that they actually offer me a freaking job. to do it full time and to take no to let me have 100% of the earnings. And then just the way everything worked out with my stuff at work. Granted, the manager who I'd gotten to let me have those 4 10-hour days is the same one who tried to stop me from getting my raise, and is the one that no longer works at my workplace. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. But according to my cards, apparently I'm no longer going to be at my workplace soon. For some sort of reason. Either the place will shut down or I will be fired. I don't think I'll be fired because I've got a pretty good reputation there. I'd still got my raise and everything. Although they do some crazy stuff there. So anything could happen. But I'm not worried about the money. I'm still... I mean, I made that game. I tried... I put that money out there to try and draw attention to this channel, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Oh well. Fuck it. I tried. But it was serious effort, and that money was meant to make someone happy and to help someone other than me. And so I can't keep it. These people helped me. Yeah, I paid them for their services, but they were legit. They help other people, and they struggle just as same as everyone else, and I feel they deserve the money. So next video, I will be delivering on that promise. And oh heck, probably get to that sometime this week, maybe this weekend, next weekend, who knows. But then the video after that, Rainbow Farms. It'll be from Rainbow Farms. Yeah. So, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. Shit's kicking up a notch. So until next time, my friends, stay safe and farewell.